One bottle of oil additive can cost $15. The piston it can crack in a turbocharged engine costs over $4,000 to replace. That is not a worst-case exaggeration. It is a documented chemical reaction with a name, a measurable pressure threshold, and real lab data behind it. Motor oil has to pass years of testing before it can carry an API or OEM certification. The additive sold right next to it on the same shelf has to pass nothing at all. In this video, real lab results, elemental analysis, oxidation testing, and actual customer engine reports show exactly what happens when the two get mixed. And we'll settle the one question almost every DIY owner has been too nervous to actually research. Does using an additive really void your warranty, or is that just something a dealer says to make you put the bottle back? Reality 1. What an additive legally is and isn't. Here's the detail that changes how you should look at every bottle on that shelf. Motor oil is a finished, fully formulated product. To carry an API service category or meet an OEM specification, that exact combination of base oil and additive package has to pass a battery of standardized engine tests, measuring everything from wear protection to oxidation resistance to emissions compatibility, as a complete chemical system working together. These tests run on real engines, in real labs, over hundreds of hours before a single bottle can legally print that certification on its label. An aftermarket additive faces none of that. There is no governing body checking a bottle of engine treatment before it goes on the shelf. There's no minimum testing requirement, no standardized claim verification, nothing stopping a company from printing boosts horsepower or extends engine life by years on a label with zero independent data behind it. A bottle simply has to not be illegal to sell, a far lower bar than the one motor oil itself has to clear. That gap between certified and legal to sell is the entire reason this conversation exists in the first place. That distinction matters because of what happens chemically the moment you pour one into the other. A fully formulated motor oil can contain over a dozen different chemical compounds working in a carefully balanced ratio. Detergents, dispersants, anti-wear agents, friction modifiers, viscosity improvers, antioxidants, all calibrated against each other so that none of them overwhelms the others. Add an additive on top, and you're not adding one new ingredient to a simple mixture. You're introducing an unvalidated variable into a system that was tested and certified as a complete whole. And the people selling you that variable were never required to test how it behaves once it's actually in there, mixing with chemistry they've never seen. This is also why the same additive can produce wildly different anecdotal results from different owners. One person reports a smoother running engine and a slight fuel economy gain. Another reports a knocking sound and a failed bearing 6 months later. Neither account is necessarily false. They're both describing the same fundamental problem, which is that mixing two independently formulated chemical systems is closer to a coin flip than a guaranteed outcome. And which side of that flip you land on depends on variables neither company ever tested for. Next, the specific chemistry that turns that coin flip into a documented safety risk. Reality 2, the calcium and sodium problem, how boosting. Your oil can crack a piston. This is the chemistry that turns an additive from merely useless into genuinely dangerous, and it has a specific documented mechanism behind it. Not a vague warning, but a measurable, named failure mode that automotive engineers have spent years studying. Modern turbocharged direct injection engines are susceptible to something called low-speed pre-ignition, or LSPI, a combustion event where the fuel-air mixture ignites before the spark plug fires, triggered by a microscopic droplet of oil entering the combustion chamber from the crevice between the piston and cylinder wall, then auto-igniting under extreme heat and pressure before the engine's ignition system ever gets the chance to fire. Researchers identified the specific chemical trigger. Oil formulations containing high concentrations of calcium and sodium-based detergents dramatically increase the likelihood of these events. According to SAE research, a single severe LSPI event can exceed 200 bar of cylinder pressure. Pressure high enough to crack a piston or break a ring land in a single occurrence. Not gradual wear building over thousands of miles, but sudden structural failure happening in the space of one engine cycle. The industry response was a complete reformulation. Research determined that calcium levels need to stay below roughly 1,500 parts per million to keep LSPI risk low, while older style formulations commonly ran 2,000 to 3,000 parts per million. That single threshold is why the API, SP, and ILSA GF6 oil specifications exist. An entire industry reformulated its chemistry at significant cost and over several years of development to get under that number specifically to protect modern turbo engines that didn't even exist in large numbers when older oil specifications were originally written. Now picture pouring an aftermarket additive, one that was never required to be tested for LSPI risk at all, directly into an oil that was carefully reformulated to sit safely under that calcium threshold. If that additive happens to be calcium or sodium heavy, you can push the finished mixture's chemistry right back over the line that an entire industry spent years engineering away from, undoing in one bottle what took the industry years to fix. This isn't a hypothetical, it's a documented, named failure mode with a measurable trigger point, and it's exactly what real lab analysis found in at least one additive tested at concentrations of over 4,000 parts per million calcium and 300 parts per million sodium combined in a single bottle. Either number alone sufficient to raise LSPI risk in a turbocharged direct injection engine, and this particular product contained both simultaneously. Next, a second failure mode that has nothing to do with one bad ingredient. What happens when two additive packages compete inside the same engine? Reality 3. When additives fight each other and your oil loses. There's a second failure mode that has nothing to do with any single bad ingredient. It's what happens when two different, individually reasonable additive packages end up competing with each other inside the same engine, neither one designed with the other in mind. This shows up clearly in real-world used oil analysis. When an engine transitions from one fully formulated oil to a different brand, the first oil sample after that change frequently shows chemical evidence of both products still present and interacting. Elevated levels of an element that shouldn't be in the new formulation at all, alongside depleted levels of an element that should be present at full strength. That's not contamination from dirt or wear. That's two competing chemical packages actively working against each other inside a running engine, each one disrupting the other's intended function until the older oil is fully flushed out over a subsequent service interval, typically resolving itself by the second oil change once the original formulation has been displaced. The same competition happens, often more severely, when you add a separate aftermarket additive to an already balanced oil rather than switching brands entirely. Two different antioxidant chemistries, two different detergent systems, two different friction modifier strategies, all introduced into the same few quarts of oil with zero coordination between the companies that made them, because neither company knew the other's product would end up in the same engine, let alone tested for it. One formulation might tolerate the addition gracefully, with a second chemistry simply sitting inert alongside the first. Another might react in ways neither manufacturer ever tested for, simply because testing that specific combination was never anyone's job, and no regulatory body requires it to be. The practical takeaway is unsettling in its simplicity. There is no way to know in advance which outcome you'll get, because the specific combination sitting in your crankcase right now has almost certainly never been tested by anyone anywhere under controlled conditions. Next, the lab test that turns this theory into a measurable number. Reality 4, the oxidation test. Proof that boosting can shorten oil life. Here's where lab data moves from theory to a measurable, repeatable result. Two of the most well-known additives on the market, a popular oil stabilizer and a long-running mystery oil brand, were blended into a standard, fully certified motor oil at their recommended treat rate, then run through a rotating pressure vessel oxidation test, a standardized industry method that pressurizes and heats an oil sample with oxygen while measuring exactly how long it takes before the oil's chemistry begins to break down under that stress. Both products are designed to be added at up to 20% of total oil volume. If you maintain the same overall oil level in your engine, rather than adding on top of a full fill, you are, by simple math, diluting the original oil's certified additive package by that same proportion, since the additive itself is not contributing any meaningful detergent or anti-wear chemistry of its own to replace what it's displacing. The oxidation test showed exactly what that dilution does. Both blended samples reached oxidation failure measurably sooner than the unmodified baseline oil. A shorter oxidation life means the oil breaks down chemically sooner, which translates directly into more deposits, more sludge-forming byproducts, and a shortened effective service interval. The opposite of what either product claims to deliver on its own packaging. One of the two samples also showed phosphorus levels that dropped below the API minimum of 600 parts per million for that oil category once diluted, meaning the simple act of adding the product had measurably taken a certified in-spec oil and pushed it outside the specification range it was originally tested and approved under. That's not a marginal theoretical concern. It's a fully certified product becoming an uncertified one, in real measurable terms, the moment the additive went in. Next, the warranty question almost nobody answers honestly. Reality 5. The warranty question. Nobody gives you a straight answer. On this is the part of the additive conversation that almost never gets addressed clearly. And it matters because it's often the exact reason people are afraid to ask questions in the first place, or feel guilty for something they did years before any problem ever showed up. Under United States federal law, specifically the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, passed in 1975, a vehicle manufacturer cannot void your warranty simply because you used an aftermarket product. They are legally required to prove that the specific product caused the specific damage being claimed before they can deny coverage on that basis. A dealer telling you using that additive will void your warranty is, in the overwhelming majority of cases, not citing an actual legal rule. They're repeating a scare tactic that's been used for decades because most customers never push back on it or ask to see the actual policy language being referenced. But here's the detail that matters just as much as the legal protection itself. Proving that causal link in either direction is expensive. Industry estimates put the cost of a full engineering failure analysis, the kind of testing required to definitively prove an additive caused an engine failure, at roughly $500,000 for a gasoline engine and $1,500,000 for a diesel engine. That number cuts both ways. It's part of why manufacturers rarely pursue this route over a single retail claim, since the cost of proving it usually dwarfs the cost of simply honoring the warranty. But it also means that if your engine genuinely is damaged by something you put in it, you are not walking into a fast, simple resolution. You're walking into a dispute that could leave your vehicle sitting for weeks or months while the question gets sorted out, regardless of which side is ultimately right, and regardless of how the legal protection is eventually applied. The law protects you. It does not protect you from the headache of having to use that protection, and that distinction is exactly why this question deserves a clearer answer than most people ever get. Next, what this actually looks like inside a real engine, not just a lab report. Reality 6. What the real-world damage actually looks like. Laboratory ppm numbers and oxidation curves are convincing on their own, but real used oil analysis from actual customer vehicles makes the consequence impossible to argue with, because there's no laboratory abstraction left to debate. Just a real engine and a real result. One documented case involved a vehicle with only 2,500 miles on a fresh oil fill after an engine flush product had been used, and the resulting oil analysis showed ironware metal readings over 42 parts per million in an engine whose normal baseline should sit in the teens, a multiple of what should be expected after such a short interval. Another case, a vehicle running a premium synthetic combined with a nanotechnology friction additive, showed copper wear levels in the 30s where normal readings for that same vehicle type should be in the teens, alongside an oxidation reading higher than the oil would normally show on its own. Evidence of exactly the kind of competing chemistry problem described earlier, playing out in a real engine rather than a lab beaker, with real wear metal consequences instead of a theoretical curve on a graph. A third case combined a major retail motor oil brand with a zinc-based additive at only 1,500 miles into the oil's service life. And the wear metal readings across iron, lead, and tin were dramatically elevated, the kind of result that, in isolation, would normally suggest a serious internal mechanical problem requiring immediate teardown, except in this case the only variable that had changed was the bottle added at the last oil change. The owner believed they were protecting their engine. The lab results told a different story entirely. Next, exactly what this all means for your next oil change. Reality 7. What to actually do at your next oil change. Put all of this together and the practical guidance is straightforward, even if it isn't what the wall of bottles at the auto parts store wants you to hear, or what decades of additive marketing have trained most owners to assume by default. If your vehicle's owner's manual specifies a particular oil viscosity in a particular API category or OEM approval, an oil that meets that exact specification has already been tested as a complete, balanced formulation. It does not need anything added to it, no matter how convincingly the bottle on the shelf argues otherwise. If you feel your current oil isn't performing the way you'd like, the answer is almost always to choose a different, fully certified oil rather than to modify the one you have with an unregulated additive. Switching to a different certified formulation gives you another fully tested system. Adding a bottle on top gives you an experiment with your own engine as the only test subject. There is one narrow, genuine exception worth knowing. Fuel additives containing polyetheramine, a detergent compound proven to clean fuel injectors and reduce combustion chamber deposits, have real documented benefit. Used oil analysis consistently shows that high fuel dilution correlates directly with elevated wear metals, and keeping injectors clean through a quality fuel detergent genuinely helps control that specific problem. That is the one category of additive with consistent, repeatable evidence behind it, distinct from anything poured directly into the crankcase. For everything poured directly into your oil, the lab data, the oxidation testing, and the real customer engine results all point the same direction. The risk of disrupting a carefully balanced, already certified formulation outweighs any unverified claim on the bottle. If you genuinely believe your engine needs more protection than your current oil provides, the fix is choosing a better oil, not improvising a blend that nobody, including the company that sold it to you, ever tested in your specific engine, under your specific driving conditions, mixed with your specific oil brand. Motor oil earns its certification through years of testing. The bottle next to it on the shelf earns its spot through marketing alone. If you've been told an additive will void your warranty, that's almost never legally true. But the real question is whether your oil needed help in the first place. How did this information land for you? And if you want a video showing exactly how to check whether a specific additive is safe for your specific car, drop it in the comments.